All right, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Downtown Development Authority, Monday, May 12th, 2025. Official, let's go. First up, Pledge of Allegiance, if you could join us. Next up is going to be roll call. I am acting as chair this evening due to the vacation of our chair, Linda. So, Holly?
Okay, so Stouffer, absent. Raska.
Present.
Herrick, present. Elgire. Present. Elliott.
Here.
Brandon.
Here.
Wingelmeyer.
Here.
Greenway.
Here.
Kuschke.
Here.
Moving on is the approval of the minutes.
Jerome, and make a motion to excuse Linda from the meeting.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Motion made.
Yep.
Support.
Support. Any comments on that? Any feedback? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Excused. Moving on, approval of the minutes. We have two different minutes to approve this evening. The first is our regular meeting of April 14th. They're in your packet. And we need to do these separately, correct? Okay. And is that a roll call vote or no?
No.
No. Okay.
You just have to be motion with someone who is at the meeting.
Right.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 14th as presented. Second.
I have a first and a second. Any further question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the special meeting that was dated April 21st, 2025. Again, it's for someone has to make the motion that was present at the meeting.
Motion to approve special meeting minutes for April 21st, 2025. Second.
I have a motion and a second.
I don't know if it matters,
I-
but the dates on the, I don't know if it's on the website wrong incorrectly or not, but the dates are wrong on the minutes.
On which, on the April 21st one?
They are.
Both of them,
No.
or, I'm sorry, yeah, April 21st, sorry, April 14th.
It's just the top sheet.
No, that's important. Good
Yep.
catch. Thank you.
Thank you. My fault, I apologize.
We can make that correction.
And the correct date is?
21st.
It is the 20th. It's just written incorrectly online. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no, I meant, I don't know if it's online like that or not, but I think it's entered in.
So on your copy of the minutes, the date is incorrect, but it actually is the 21st. That 21st is correct.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is agenda approval. Need a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up is the financial report. February 28th, March 31st. You have them all in your packet. Does someone have questions about them that wants to start, or I will defer to Christina to explain?
I have a question. I've went through this a couple of times. There's a $58,000 increase from beginning balance to ending balance, and I had trouble figuring out where that was.
Yeah, and you have two different reports in there. So you have a fund balance, balance sheet that is through March 31st.
Okay.
And then your expense and revenue report is through April 30th.
Okay.
So anything that occurred in March would actually be showing and concluded for that balance sheet versus what you're seeing here for April. And I think that's where the
Confusion lies.
confusion lies.
Okay.
And hopefully, moving forward, because I know we've talked about this, is having both of those completed reports for the month to
So
be
you can
brought forth.
line it up.
It will be a little bit like, so for the board, you would be reviewing if, typically it would be all of March at this point. Because by the time we are getting ready for this May meeting, the April report isn't completed for the balance
Still
sheet. Yeah.
putting things
Yep.
in. My other question is, the TIF funds nearly doubled, which is great. Just that, because that's a statement, it's a comment.
Any other financial report questions? Christina, anything you would like to add?
In terms of the financial report, I think, as Director Cuxey mentioned, is that you're seeing that your tax increment financing has definitely increased overall. Another item that you will see in the future is interest gained or earned. So that will be calculated for the full year, hopefully for the June report, if not for the conclusion for the audit purposes. And then in the future, you should be then seeing your earned interest on a monthly basis.
One more question. And I think we talked about this before. There was another big increase, and I'm seeing it as a line item. It says TRF from fund balance, 120,000.
So that's another budgetary thing that should not have been happening. You shouldn't be doing a transfer of fund balance into your income. You just total out your fund balance. You know what is in reserves when you're looking at your balance sheet. So that is something that should not have occurred previously in terms of budgeting practices.
Okay.
So in the future, you won't,
That's what that big jump was. a couple
that's what it
months
is.
ago.
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
At this point, I'll accept the motion to approve the financial report.
You just have to do a file and receive.
Sorry?
Yep. You just have to file and receive as a chair.
Oh, okay, never mind. We're not motioning, we're filing and receiving.
Correct.
I'm new at this, I'm working on it,
That's
all
okay,
right?
that's okay. That's a newer thing for you guys too.
All right, next is public comment. If anyone here from the public would like to come forward and address any of the items that are on the agenda for discussion this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jim Koskela, 207 North Saginaw, and I will be quick because I have babies that need baths at home. So that's how I'm spending my night. I had a couple of items here on the authorization of the interim executive director / executive director or chairperson to approve expenditures. So the way I read this is we are now, you are granting the authority to these individuals to enter into contracts on your behalf. And it's pretty vague the way it's worded. So unless there's some modifications, for instance, there's no dollar amounts, there's no term limits. And for an example, the budgeted items. So one budgeted item is project cost / design, $269,000. So the way I read it is they have discretion to make a contract for $269,000 and that would be okay. So that's concerning, I think. And the other item is on the credit card. There's some vagueness there as well. There's I don't know if there's a policy here, but maybe there should be a policy dictating what they can spend money on. Because one of the items it says event supplies, printing, travel expenses, to name a few. So there's not an exhaustive list or processes of that nature. That's all I had. Thank you. Good night.
Anyone else? move on to new business. Christina has prepared for us so that we're easier to understand in our agenda packet, the overview of each topic, so you can use that as a point of reference. So, starts on page 3. The first item is the 25-26 budget that was worked on. Many of us had individual meetings working on our committees and talking through the budgetary descriptions and things that needed to be done. Again, I want to say that this was a task that Linda and I were not really aware of early on. And then, so we're kind of doing this backwards in many ways, because it won't be this way in the future. But wasn't something that we were aware of and how the process worked. And as we all know, there's new leadership in the village, there's new leadership in the DDA that's temporary, and everyone is doing the best they can. So that's why it's being presented tonight. Is there anything additional you'd like to share about this, Christina?
Sure, this has been presented to council. Typically, the process is that the DDA Executive Director prepares a budget. Generally, what I recommend is that a director works with its board and committee members to develop that budget and have some early review processes with that. And then bring that to the council for approval, and then after that, once it's approved, it should come back to the DDA Board of Directors to adopt. And the reason for that is sometimes there might be slight modifications at the council level that are requested that might have to come back to the board for approval. So that's why there is that kind of that additional step to that. Speaking specifically to the budget though, what you will see here is that we would be drawing down on that fund balance in order to achieve many of the projects and programs desired. I did put in there a project detail list so that you could see what those projects might be, not only this year, but in coming years, especially with your design committee that works on infrastructure improvement type projects and larger projects like that. And making sure that we have a reasonable scale of how we're going to be able to achieve these projects over time. So with that, you know, your revenue is obviously going to show that you're close, you know, a little over $346,000 with expenditures at just shy of $500,000, which would be going into your fund balance almost $152,000. So your fund balance currently, right now, you have a good fund balance to be able to draw down from. And as a DDA, typically as you're receiving tax increment financing by state law, that you should be expending these funds within 1 to 5 years. So it's always a rotation of making sure that you're expending those older funds and getting those out and then preparing for other projects and programs. Or if you have bond debt, obviously that you would be utilizing it towards bond debt.
So this already got presented to council then? The budget, the recommended budget?
Sure.
So just the proposed. So it has been, at tomorrow's meeting, they will acknowledge the receipt, hopefully, of the proposed budget, but there can still be adjustments made. The actual budget will be voted on in the June 24th meeting, I believe.
So do we ask questions now, if we have questions?
Yes, you may.
Okay. I'm curious why the budget for Ladies' Night Out decreased by $4,000 when we spent more than $3,000 thus far on Ladies' Weekend, and we still have another one to go. So why would we decrease our budget for next year for that?
We decreased it because I think the consensus was that to not give away bags, like stuff.
Well, how much are the bags?
They were expensive.
They were like 1,000,
More
this
than that.
last time.
Those were those little bags, but previously they were
Yeah.
in the thousands, like $3,000. They're not cheap. They just kept going up.
Sounds like you're trying to be fiscally responsible.
Just trying. All we can do.
How many bags do we need?
Right. So that's why that went down, Hillary.
That's the only event that we have a line item budget for, though. I don't understand why we would decrease our money for that. I mean, I guess,
Christina, am I correct in saying that obviously the budget would get voted on and approved, but there's always the opportunity to amend it?
To amend it,
Yes.
yeah.
And
Yes.
so if it became a burning desire to do something for a ladies' weekend out, or any other event for that matter, the budget could be amended to shift funds.
Yes.
So it's not like it's a total out the window kind of thing. We could still make amends for that. Any other questions about the budget? Is that a vote item or just a,
Yes, I would approve the draft budget.
okay. Is that a roll call or is it a,
I would do it as a roll call.
okay? Draft budget, roll call. Hearing no further questions, Holly, can
Nope.
you do a roll call?
I sure-
Budget on that?
Yes, I can.
This is to approve the
Do we
draft
have a
budget.
motion?
We need a motion.
Motion to approve the draft budget for 2025-26.
Second. Any further questions? Now we'll do the roll call vote.
Okay. Rashka,
Yes.
Herrick, yes. Alguier,
yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
Wingelmeyer,
Yes.
Greenway, Kutchke.
Yes.
Thank you. Next topic is election of officers. As you see in the write-up for the current bylaws of the DDA, the board shall elect officers of the board on an annual basis in April. Expiration is April 30th, but since that's not occurred yet, the board should formally announce the opportunity for nominations at this meeting and then hold elections in the June with a final call for nominees or a slate. So, with that being said, we traditionally elect a chair, vice chair,
And
treasurer.
You have not normally done a treasurer.
Oh, not
It's secretary, so
secretary,
chair,
sorry.
vice chair, and secretary. You've normally utilized the services of the village for
Correct.
treasurer.
All right. So I need,
Does the board think of electing a treasurer?
I think we have so much going on right now, trying to get reorganized, that I would like, I'm not in disagreement of that. But I would think that we need to probably get a chairperson, a director first, and see how that all evolves, and then look at that maybe for the following term.
Would anyone here even be interested in being treasurer?
Well, I was wondering, is that a service that they provide to us, or is that something that we pay for? And then if we did have our own treasurer, would that be like something that we would have to pay like a CPA to do for us? Or would that be a volunteer
Yes.
position on the board?
So, and DDAs and Main Street programs have done it in a kind of a varying ways. So as a treasurer appointed on the board, they could be just responsible for reviewing the financial reports and statements and preparing a conversation for the board at the meeting, yet still allowing, paying the village for their services to handle those treasury accounting rules, right? But there are also other DDAs and Main Street programs that outsource it completely. So they hire their own accountant and handle that separately. So you would still want to appoint someone as a treasurer from the board, but it does allow for it in the law that you can go elsewhere and hire that. So you do have that flexibility. And maybe that's something for your future discussions with your bylaws and looking at the bylaws itself.
I have a question in regard to treasurer. What is the audit services line item for $9,000? And then the recommended budget of $10,000 for 2025, 2026? What does that entail?
Jim can speak to that.
We pay a portion of the audit, Plant Moran, I believe it is 10%, if I recall.
You guys pay, the village pays a lot of money for that audit. I was looking at your numbers from your council packet.
So last year, we only budgeted 9,000 and it cost us more than that. So I think that's probably why
Right,
it
it's 10.
increased.
Right.
Because that's also one of the line items in the amended budget for us to approve for tonight.
Fair enough. And we pay 10% because of everything being taken care of through the village?
Correct.
Okay, just asking.
And that covers the treasurer, or that just covers the audit? How much do
The
we pay for the
10
treasurer for
The
the village?
10, or the almost 10 that you paid was
That
for
pays
the
for the
audit only.
Audit.
You have other administrative fees of, I believe, 8,200, and that is, I believe, included with that
Annually?
annually.
Oh, that's not bad.
Administrative fees and charges right there. Got it.
So, what I'm hearing is no one's stepping up with a burning desire to be the treasurer. However, again, I will personally say, I think that is something that we can look at in the future, and I think that should be something we can talk to the new director about. If we want to have a treasurer, and like Christina indicated, I do sit on other boards and stuff where we have a board member that's designated as treasurer. Nothing with what we have agreement upon with the village would change. It's simply someone from our board taking a deep dive and look at everything. I don't know what Kari's doing and should be
Yeah.
a viable
I think
candidate.
Carrie's our new treasurer.
But she did not raise her hand for that burning desire. But basically, that's what a treasurer would do, is deep dive into what it is and kind of share their comments and things back to the board.
I
So-
think that would be a good idea.
So I think at the moment, my
Yeah.
personal opinion is to try to link that up for the next director to work into place. And at the moment, just stick with chair, vice chair, and treasurer.
And then I would consider.
Then you would consider that, okay.
And
Good
it
to
is
know.
in the bylaws, so we can talk about it more
Right.
for next meeting too.
Right, perfect.
Yeah, I believe by the way the bylaws are currently stated, we could elect one right now if we wanted.
Okay. So at this point, we need to take nominations, or,
It's just an open call at this point.
So-
Final nominations would be in your June meeting. So if there are
the
any
nominations and vote would be at the June meeting?
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, if anyone's interested in serving in a officer position, or if you're interested in continuing in that office position, then you just need to step forward and let Christina know so that
You don't
we
need a
can
motion?
be prepared. No, we're not,
Okay.
we're just.
We're not
making-
voting. We're just
It's an
chatting.
announcement today
Fair enough.
to make people aware that we're open for nominations or suggestions.
Gotcha.
Okay?
That's right, in June.
Next is the 24-25 budget amendments. And I'm going to let Christina take that.
Okay. It is on page 32 and 33. And these are the line items based upon either current expenditures or anticipated expenditures by year end. So you'll see in there, from the top down, so your wages, your full-time, part-time, as well as training and audit services, and contractual services. So just as a reminder, we cannot pay for my interim contractual services out of your wages and full-time account. So those things had to be switched around for that. This still would allow for a month of, if not more, of hiring an executive director at a full-time wage salary, okay? And then looking at training and travel, training was at $2,000. You spent a little bit on training, but travel expenses for the National Main Street Conference have come in, and we really should have had more in the travel budget versus the training budget, because the training's usually for paying for that training, not necessarily traveling to that training.
Like registration and stuff.
Right, exactly. So switching that around, and this would then also be consistent with the item later on your agenda related to those expenses incurred by the chair to go to the National Main Street Conference. Publications, there is a totaling of publications. Again, a little bit of switching some things around because they're just not aligning or matching up. But do know that it doesn't change the total amount of your printing budget. And in conversations, with the chair, is having these individual line items for printing for the org committee or printing for the promotions committee is a little bit laborious. And just combining those together will be easier going forward. Gives you flexibility as a board too, to be able to say to various committees, yep, you have this amount of budget to work amongst all your committees, right? So, and balancing that in between. Also, just in looking at utilities, I would say that utilities are gonna come in higher based upon, your current expenditure, and that is estimated at $1,900. Project costs, that is a big one, and that's, a lot of it's related to design costs. So, again, when looking at, your future year budget and this year's budget, shifting things to more accurately reflect what you need currently right now, but still allowing you enough funds to do some of the projects that you had decided to do for this year for design. And you'll have more than enough. You'll have funds definitely left over at this time. Looking then at your income, that's at the bottom on the second page. Just to align with what you've already received on is your tax increment financing taxes and the real property taxes, just to align with what you've received, as well as showing for that interest earned. And that is what would be anticipated in terms of interest earned at this point. Any questions?
We have a rather humble budget. I don't know that travel should be prioritized over education. There's ways to work smarter instead of harder. If we're spending $2,000 to travel somewhere, to take a $500 seminar, that might not be something that's necessarily the best for a group with a budget like ours.
Well, I know in the past, Nick Klemp went on many of these types of trainings and always came back with just a wealth of knowledge, and I believe it is necessary. They've always learned wonderful things, and
Who's his cap? Do you remember?
I apologize, I don't remember his cap. But they were I remember Boston and,
It's the National Main Street, so it was
yeah, I mean,
traveled around. the
we
country.
want our director to go to a national Main Street conference, truly.
Next year it's in Tulsa.
That, I guess, that's my question for April, Are you aware of what this conference is? It's the National Main Street Program, which is what we're part of, and annually they have a conference. It rotates around the country. This year was at Philly. Other years it's been Boston. One year it was hosted in Detroit. Back in the days when I was involved with Ferndale, we were actually the host city. And so it is a big deal, and it is where all the breakout seminars are about all new laws and new ideas and new placemaking grants and things like that. There's a trade fair where you can pick up information, which Linda did this year. And I know George and Amy went from the township as well to the same conference and picked up ideas as well. So it's a very valuable tool to our DDA to keep us on the track of being more forward and progressive.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I mistakenly came across as not valuing that particular conference. What I'm confused about is how did Nick afford it when the previous travel budget was 200, and why is it being proposed to be 2,500 now?
It probably wasn't put on the right line item.
Yeah, as Christina stated earlier, that the travel and the training, were separated inappropriately. Is that right, Christina?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what was occurring, at least from what I could see from previous budget, is that they were lumping it all into training. And generally, you want to keep those two line items separate. You're paying for the training costs, and some trainings might not require travel. There might be, an online training or something like that. So it makes sense to have those separated. It also helps for, I think, the board to truly understand the cost for going to those trainings and making sure you're getting the value, right, when it comes back. And many board of directors will send typically like their staff, executive director, and then one board member each year. I know I always encouraged it because the value for a board member to network with all of those other, like thousands of people that go to this conference is amazing. In that one in particular. There are a few others, like with the Michigan Downtown Association, that sometimes there might be a topic that a board member it would be great to get a board member to go to, or their advocacy day at the state capitol, which is really important for advocating for DDAs and tax increment financing and economic growth overall. So there's definitely opportunities, I think, for board members to be engaged in this process.
Are there any other annual conferences that anyone from the board typically goes to? That needs to be included on travel, or is that really it?
I think that's it.
There hasn't been any in the past. So.
There was a showcase of something, like economic development, but that's not, was that a charge to go?
There was no
It was
fee.
at Oakland County. Okay, just thinking out loud.
Oakland County does put on a lot of trainings. Actually, I've attended quite a few of them locally, and they've been great, but there's no charge for those.
And generally, I don't know how all the DDAs work, but my past experience here, and I know Holly went with me to a couple of them, is we just incur our own expenses. I don't know whether that's really the way it should be moving forward. Maybe we should consider budgeting something for that, a travel expense or something of that nature. Or if there's a meal function that we need to pay for, or something of that nature, if we're gone for an all-day thing. Often the seminars are free, but not always. So I guess, again, that's something, if something does come up, we can always amend the budget to adjust for that. But at the moment, I'm not really aware of anything.
Yeah, and I think you do have that flexibility as you're kind of looking in the future, like who do you really want involved in some of these opportunities? And maybe you do make adjustments. I encourage it, so, but the more the merrier, I always feel, so. And I think it just makes for a stronger board overall.
No, I think the travel line makes sense now. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any further questions on the 24-25 budget amendments?
Yes, the $1,400 in interest. So from my understanding, there's nothing we can do about the previous year's interest that was not deposited into the DDA account?
From what I understand is that because the audit has already occurred for those previous years, that it cannot. But that is
Okay.
something that will correct moving forward. And I think it's good that the board knows and understands that, and that you're paying attention and making sure that you are seeing your earned interest.
Any other questions? And I need a motion to approve the budget amendments.
Motion to approve the 24-25 budget amendments.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, or is that a
I do
roll call?
on that one.
Roll call.
Rashka,
Yes.
Herrick, yes. Elguyer,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
Winkelmeyer, Greenway,
Yes.
Kuschke.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the one-month extension of POW Strategies contract. This is our interim executive director that's been with us, and I don't know how everyone else feels, but I am grateful for her input and her directive that she's been able to give us. Her expertise is amazing, and she has really made an amazing difference already, and I think taking us in such a positive direction, which over time I've always been a everything happens for a reason kind of guy. And maybe this is why it's happening, because as I said early on, it's great to get all our ducks in a row before we bring a new director on board, so that they're not walking into a discombobulated mess. And we got some other additional things put in place. And as I brought up at the last meeting, we're gonna work on some standard operating procedures and get policies in place, like gentleman brought up earlier. Yes, we need policies for credit card use. I mean, 100%. I mean, you don't just give somebody a credit card and say, have at it. So we absolutely have all these things in place, as well as some of the others that we've already identified from previous meetings. So, anything you'd like to add, Christina?
No, I mean, it has been a pleasure working with you in this short period of time, and just diving in and getting to know the community. And I know there's still a few things on my list that we need to get done that I want to make sure are done before I leave here. But we do have, the next steps in terms of the interview process for the executive director. So I do anticipate, that process and getting the approval from the board and the finalized contract together will take, another couple of weeks. So that will put us into mid-June. And then you'd have me until the end of June just to be here on site. But still always know that after the fact, if there's questions or, needs, you can always call beyond that.
Any further questions?
I'll make the motion for a 1-month contract extension.
I have some questions. Sorry.
We can go back to that.
Oh, okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions?
So, just in looking over the contract, I wanted to get some updates on where we're at with some things, because I don't know if I'm just not in the loop or if I'm not seeing that they're being done. So, on refreshing under promotional support, refreshing of website content, site map features, including but not limited to available property listing, easy steps to opening a business, and downtown Holly and resources. I'm not seeing that on our website, so maybe.
Yep, no, there have been updates already. I think the one page that definitely still needs to be updated is the available properties, and getting, working with Dave on updating what that list is, so we can get that on there. But there has been, like the Adopt a Garden page has been completely updated. A number of the other pages have been updated. The starting, steps to starting a business, it's been updated to an extent, but it's something that we want to have more conversation with the village, with the process for businesses in getting in business, and making sure that we have it clearly articulated, and if we need to expand upon that further. And I'm trying to think what else on the site. I know that the volunteer page still needs to be probably either relinked if we want it to go to a different form. As I know that Director Allgaier has another form that she utilizes for volunteers, so we might want to just marry those together. And kind of looking at what other improvements might still be needed on the website overall.
Well, because when I go to the website, under for business, it doesn't give me the option to click on anything or for community. It's just, there's a drop-down menu with a road leading to nowhere. It doesn't take me anywhere.
Just the Main Street page, Hillary?
On the Main Street page, yeah. And then I'm also struggling with finding our meeting minutes. Usually there's a tab for the minutes, and people that are accustomed to going to the tab, the folder that says minutes, to find the minutes, I see where the meeting minutes are being updated, but it's in the board packet where it's not easy for people to find unless they know, like, I know where to find it because,
Yep.
but I'm on the board, so.
That's one of the things on my list, to still have those individually loaded for the minutes overall. So that has not been done in the past. You've only had board packets on the website. So that is something we should be doing as a best practice, is listing all those individual minutes, for sure.
And then as far as, I have several questions, I'm
Sure.
sorry. And then as far as monthly electronic business communications, to me that indicated that you would be reaching out to our business owners and communicating with them. And if that's happening, I'm just concerned with the business owners not being in communication, and nobody's communicating with them, and which kind of coincides. So I asked Linda about why the emails aren't going out, and she said, well, we don't have updated email addresses, but on item 8, it says update business email list and directory. So if these things are, there's no contact information for any of the businesses on our website. There's no phone number, there's no email. I would like to email the businesses, so I offered to go around and get the information, but then I saw that it's on here. I'm just wondering what's going on with that.
Yep. No, and that's definitely one thing that's still on our list to do, and I know that Dave and I have also spoke about that as well, to go through that list. So, we do have an existing list from, I believe it was from September, and there is contacts within there that we do have distribution available to. There has been at least one communication specifically regarding just to kind of hello, and also facade improvement programs that we wanted to make sure businesses were aware of, that has gone out. So it's really more about what's the next communication that you want going out, and letting me know what types of things either the committees might be looking to communicate with the businesses, or if there's anything else that you feel as a board you would like to include in that communication. You haven't had a standard as to what typically goes into a newsletter, but we can definitely develop a standard kind of moving forward, or at least a framework to work from.
I've never received any like that email that you stated that it came.
No?
When I was there in September.
Okay.
I've not seen anybody come down.
Okay. I will double check that you're on the list for sure, which you should be.
I just wanted to say, Holly, I thought at one point you talked to Linda about possibly having interns gather email addresses from the businesses. Is that something that can still happen?
Yes, actually, I just received approval from Michigan Works. The intern will be beginning and available on Thursday, right after Labor Day. Let me check the date.
I have a summer
Memorial Day.
intern too,
While
if you
you're
want
checking
another
the
one.
date though, let me just say, as a business owner,
29th.
I would be much more likely to want to give out my information and meet somebody who is the director or acting director rather than a teenager coming into my business. I'm sorry, like, and I love that they come around, they help, that's awesome. They're so friendly and nice and chipper and everything, but it would also be nice to see the DDA member, you know, like to see the director come in. That would speak volumes to me as a business owner. You know, especially as a new business owner, existing business owner, someone who wants to stick around, that kind of thing. And I thought it was in, you know, and I assume that was in, that's why it was brought up. I assume that was part of your job that we've been paying for. That's what I was asking.
I do only have 15 hours per week.
Okay.
So it is prioritized based upon what is the need of, the overall need of the board. So if that's the highest and greatest need right now, then we need to move that to the top.
And I get it, if it's the paperwork that is the highest rate, you know, that is what it is, then it should have been more, like, it's not, that should have been included in your job description, things like that.
Yeah, and those are things that I think that they were hoping to be able to achieve, right? Let's get through as much as we possibly can get through. And, you know, I think the one thing is not only updating the list, but making sure then all the other subsequent lists are updated. So there is, you know, the list that's on, in the Outlook that was being used for basically the e-news. So there wasn't a separate, like a MailChimp or Constant Contact that's utilized for a newsletter. So making sure that all those things are updated as well, besides your actual spreadsheet.
Tarina, I want to speak to your comment because I agree with your comment about you just want to give out your information to just anybody walking in the door kind of thing. However, if we refashioned this a little bit, they could come and say they're there on behalf of the DDA and give you the information and have you email it into the office. If everyone would email their correct information, quite frankly, that's more productive anyways because then you know the email's correct. So maybe the directive would be to have someone come
I
around.
didn't trust them.
Well, I understand, but I understand both things that you're saying.
Right.
And yes, in the perfect world, when we get a full-time director, yes, it's gonna be part of their job to go around and be the face of the DDA and be visible and be seen. Absolutely, 100%, like our previous director did. But I'd like that to be a priority somewhere down the road where the director's not going because they're asking for a donation. I'd rather them be doing, as you called it, like a site visit to say, hi, how's business? What can we do to help? And how's things? And these are some of the programs we're offering. Did you know about our facade improvement and things like that? So I do agree with that being a priority in the new director's role, and maybe setting aside a couple days a month where they're gonna do that. It's definitely gonna have to be scheduled because I can tell you right now, just like a business owner, the DDA director gets pulled like this in 80 million directions, and then, it falls off the list. But I think it's important. I think it's super important. So, but I do think that we could start by getting the information provided so that when someone does hit the ground, at least they could send a welcome newsletter out and say, hey, I'm new, I'm your new director, here's my photo. When I walk in your door, this is me. Or something to that nature, so that we can at least start some communication, because I think also, to speak to what you're saying, you're feeling that some people are feeling a little concerned because we used to get monthly emails, and those have
Right.
stopped, obviously, because there was no one to do them. So, and I think when we get that communication up and running, I think it's gonna be a lot better, and people will be more on board.
And we could send out like a Google form, basically, that businesses that are already on the list to at least gather all their contact information or any changes or people that they would want to add. Because sometimes businesses might have like a secondary person that they want to receive communication as well, kind of that backup contact.
Yeah, this really brings up a couple of the challenges that we're actively working on, and one of them is this kind of census of existing businesses and trying to find appropriate contacts in the best means possible, as well as the available properties out there and trying to find, again, the best means to capture the most current information, you know, the most usable information possible with that, and then also trying to put in a system where we can maintain this, because as soon as we get it out there and put it on the website, you know, a week later, it's gonna start getting old. So we really have to put all that in place.
Yep.
Do you have a packet that you give to the new businesses as of now?
We do not, and that's another thing that's in the budget for those kind of documents. Personally, I'd really prefer to try to get that more electronic than on paper, again, because a month after we print up a couple hundred or whatever, it's gonna be old and stale and changes will need to be made. So we've had a lot of discussions about how we can best utilize the website.
And then, my only other question is regarding the coordination of executive director search. So it looks like we had to pay a $2,500 upfront for that. And I'm just curious because based on social media and LinkedIn, I didn't see any job postings about the position until the end of April. So I just was wondering what was done from the end of February to the end of April in terms of the executive director search. And I'm just wondering, you know, because I don't know all of the things, so for the people.
So that the previous round of candidates was, for the most part, conducted, you know, with the chair and the vice chair leading that. So I actually started right at the very tail end of that. So going into this next round, that is when I've actually spent a lot more of the time working on, you know, reaching out to people and garnering interest. And I was going to say, like in next item coming up, is that we do have 17 applications that have come in, so it's great, and a lot of them have some good candidate qualities. So I'm pleased to see what we've received thus far. And we still have 2 more days.
2 more days. Any other questions on item 4?
The only other question that I have is I didn't see anything in this contract about you solely working with our DDA. Do you work your business and contract with other DDAs while you contract with our DDA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Thank
I'm
you.
only up to 15 hours a week with this DDA, and then I have other types of contracts with other communities. So, not necessarily always interim contracts, though.
So then if we extend the contract, the items that are not done that have been paid for thus far are gonna be done?
Yes, they'll be completed. So, you know, and I think really, you know, my goal for, you know, like with the directory, getting that as robust as possible, and working with the Economic Vitality Committee to really determine how they want to, you know, do that in the future too, and keeping that up to date. Because you can't do it just once a month, or I mean, just once a year. It needs to be on a monthly basis as things are changing. So getting those certificate of occupancies and information from the village is important to help to ensure that all the information is being updated consistently each month.
Anything else? Thank you, good questions. No, great, no, that's what this is for. I had a motion, I had a second, we had discussion. Is that a roll call?
Yeah, it's an expenditure.
Rashka,
Yes.
Herrick, yes. Elguyer,
Yes.
Elliot,
Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
Wingelmeyer,
Yes.
Greenway,
Yes.
Kuschke.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next is the authorization of Main Street Conference travel expenditures. And are there other expenditures in there as well?
This is specifically for the travel expenditures.
For the travel expenditures, okay?
However, in your, because I wasn't sure, honestly, how things were going to go with this meeting in terms of things that would be adjusted, but you have some items in the secondary packet in total. That includes Ladies' Night Out. In terms of that first page is total expenditures for Ladies' Night Out. Thus far, I have not received anything else at this point, which a portion of that in there for Ladies' Night Out does include a reimbursement for Linda Stouffer, as well as a reimbursement for Hillary Allgaier. And then the travel expenses in particular for Linda Stouffer. So those are itemized in there with the receipts, so that you have the detail. So again, I wasn't sure if we needed to approve the reimbursements for the Board of Directors in particular, or if we're just looking at the travel expenditures.
We haven't in the past. It was a line item that was,
We have never done that in the past. It's been within the budget,
The line item
spoken
in the
within the
past-
committees.
The line item in the past was either 1,800 or 2,000, and this went over that. So before the check can be signed, there needs to be approval from the board to go over that budget. And I think some of that might have been explained nicely today about the shortage we were given on travel expense.
the
But
training and the.
But when the checks need to be signed by the village, we have to see where the approval comes from. So if it's not met by the budget line, we need to see the approval in the minutes or something, which can be attached by the chair or the director, whomever. And then the other issue with this, it needs to be resubmitted because there are a few receipts that are not itemized, and the village cannot sign checks for potential alcohol, right? So we've got a couple things from a brewery, and it's just a credit card receipt, and we cannot write off tips, like your tips to your server.
Why is that?
What's that?
Why is that?
Accounting? Well, I don't know how to word that. Could you handle that one, Tim?
Because and I don't know the exact reasons.
Only because
but
it's an expense
it's a
within the
discretionary
travel, so I'm
choice,
just
yeah.
wondering.
It's not a standard 20%?
And so the question is, a lot of these things just are not policy-based. We have to figure out a policy. The problem is that just nothing's in place right now as far as, like, within the DDA. Like, and that's something you need to establish. Is it a standard 20%, or is that the discretion of the person? Are you doing a per diem rate per day that you don't have to submit expenditure lines?
Per
And
diem
so,
should be considered, in my opinion. So right now in our bylaws, it states that if there is no policy written separately by the DDA, that we will adhere to the village's policies.
right.
And so we cannot sign off on alcohol. We need itemized receipts, and that's if we're ever audited. So if we're ever audited, we need itemization, so we know you're not, sure, you went to Costco and you said you bought a desk for your office, but was it really, flowers for your house?
Hey. I love flowers.
So it just needs, in my opinion, it just needs to be resubmitted with, the itemization, and if she doesn't have the itemization, then the ones that say, brewery on it, take it out, and really that's about it.
Yeah. And again,
And approval to go over the budget line from the board.
And that was done with your budget amendments.
Was that for last year or the upcoming year?
That was for this year. The budget amendments was
Okay.
for this year, yes.
Yep, and that part is handled, so now just the itemization.
and I just want to reiterate again what I said last meeting and again earlier tonight, and that is the importance of us working on the SOPs and getting all our policies in place, because I don't disagree, but again, you have a chair and a vice chair that stepped into a position that had no guidance and previous experience and given no leadership from the village. So we are absolutely doing our best and doing our best with our best interest in mind for the village. And I just want to reiterate that fact that, I mean, we're all doing things and they may be slightly wrong because we didn't do the other things, but those other things were never told of us, number one, and number two, I don't believe they ever existed. And so we're kind of starting fresh, which is an okay thing in my
Sure,
opinion.
yes.
I like the fact that we're starting fresh and we can set the tone moving forward.
And I don't think anyone thinks there was anything ever malicious done. I think it's really just,
Understand.
like, because there's no policies in place, we just recognize as we're going forward with our, like, with procedures, that we need to, like, go back in time on some of these things and make the
Sure.
correct approvals.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify for those of you that had questions, there's nothing, the DDA can put in our standard operating procedures that we allow for tipping. We just have to set what that tipping amount is.
Or
Because-
per diem, because then you don't have to worry
or
about
per
saving
diem.
receipts or
But,
anything.
you
And
know,
that,
so
I
there's
feel like that
different
would be
ways
the
of doing
easiest.
it, we just
Agreed.
have to put it into place. And those avenues and policies work, because I've done it with other
And
employments.
there is a
I've had.
federal rate for per diem, so you could follow just the federal rate.
So we need to address that at a future meeting and get some of those SOPs. I don't know if you have time, Ms. Brandon, but if any of these things that you are bringing to light, you could assist us with,
Absolutely.
I would be grateful if you could create a document and then send it over for us to review. That would be greatly appreciated. And then Christina can take a peek at them and we can see how it all lines up and get something so that at next meeting, we can just get some of these SOPs in place.
And I know that, I think Lisa found some travel policies for other, like, organizations.
Oh, perfect.
That might be good templates that you could, like, kind of, oh, we didn't think of that, we should add that in there.
Right,
So-
yeah.
I just looked it up, it's $178 per day, $110 for lodging, and $68 for meals.
I think it's location-based.
Location.
Like-
The federal per diem.
110 for lodging, that's unrealistic.
No, I mean, having worked for the federal government for 20 years before this, like, it's dependent on the location, like your per diem rate. Because if I'm going on a trip to DC or if I'm going to Hawaii, there might be a standard rate, but it's always based on, and they have that published too. Because again, a hotel in Holly is different than if I'm going to Las Vegas for a
Correct.
trip.
How many nights were you guys there? Days and nights?
It's like 5 of those.
I missed it.
On
I think
the,
it was 4 nights.
Yeah.
I think it was 4 nights.
I understand that you want her to resubmit it, but I just feel terrible that it's coming out of her own pocket. $221 for meals for how many days?
I don't think that it needs to come out of her own pocket.
Well, I'm saying if we won't cover her food or itemized, that's
Well,
one.
If she can call them and get the itemized receipts, I don't see why we couldn't accept an itemized one and say, if they had an alcohol drink, subtract that from the total. And they probably didn't even have any alcohol, but it's just as is without the items on there.
Right.
Right.
So, I would like to get Linda reimbursed, so can we structure this to where we don't have to have another meeting? We can motion to reimburse her
I think the
pending
motion
her
could be
line
worded-
items.
I think the motion could be worded something along the lines of approving the travel expenses pending a proper resubmission. Because that would give her leeway, a proper resubmission, rather than being specific, to either turn in itemized receipts or to scrap a couple. Let's just say one was all booze or something, which obviously isn't the case. But
Right.
it gives her a little leeway then.
And then she would just get with the treasurer on that then?
Yep, she could certainly do it that way, yes.
Or you?
Oh, she should go to the treasurer.
Okay. I want to make a motion, I need to vote. I'd like to make a motion to approve the travel expenses adjusted per resubmitting itemized receipts for Linda Stouffer.
A second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Raska,
Yes.
Herrick, yes. Elgire,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
Wingelmeyer,
Yes.
Greenway,
Yes.
Hutchke.
Yes.
Next is item 7, authorization of interim executive director.
Number 6, sorry.
6.
6, sorry, I lied. Authorization of expenditure for main event attendees.
Where is that one at?
That is in Rochester.
No, I'm sorry, I mean the papers to go with it. Is it in the,
Number 6 on the agenda overview.
Yeah, it's just in the agenda overview.
okay,
I don't have any questions about
gotcha,
because it's not something we've explained yet.
okay.
Do you have a dollar amount on that?
105.
$105?
It is minor, but considering I wasn't sure if we were approving.
Is anyone
board
else?
expenditures or not.
So this is, does everyone know what this is for? This is for the Main Street, Oakland County event that they have coming up on June 12th. It's in Rochester at the Roxy. It's a $35 fee to attend. And we're looking for authorization to spend. Are we waiting for someone else to respond yet? Looks like Kari.
Waiting
No,
on Kari.
Just go for it. If I go, I'll pay my way.
Yeah.
For $35.
Why don't we, I don't know, I think maybe, I know I'm gonna go, and my sister may wanna go, because she's part of our.
Do we buy extra tickets for?
No.
No?
Why don't we just buy our own tickets? Let's make it simple.
Because this was an appreciation of the board members, and I think it's the least our DDA could do for the efforts and work that we put in. And it's a $35 fee. If you're bringing a guest, you have to pay for the guest. The guests are not included, it's only for the board members.
And we do receive 3
Complimentary.
Complimentary.
tickets for the 3 applications for awards that we.
So there you go. So I need a motion to approve the $105 expense.
So moved. Or do you-
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? No, roll call, sorry.
Raska,
Yes.
Herrick, yes. Elgire.
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
Wingelmeyer,
Yes.
Greenway,
Yes.
Hutchke.
Yes. Do they alert you to let you
Motion
know?
carried.
Sorry,
No.
they don't, to let you know if you've won or not. Okay, you just get to
No, they
press.
don't.
Okay, fair enough. Now,
Number 7, authorization of interim executive director, or chairperson to approve expenditures. Christina?
Yeah. So typically to write a check request, it requires someone to sign that check request. Oh, is it not on? Thank you. Thanks. Forgot that it went off. So state that again. For the village to process a check, we have to submit a check request. It requires a signature. So the question to the board in terms of those authorizations, we need to assign either the executive director and/or chairperson. And since I'm currently acting as interim, I would state that you include that in the motion if you do that for this time being, in order to process your payments. You have various contracts that are, coming to fruition with design projects that are coming in, and just, even as simple as some of these expenditures as well. And making sure that we have articulated who can authorize those check requests. And I usually always recommend that you have 2 people, because sometimes there will be reimbursements for one or the other, and the other should approve those check requests, those reimbursements. So you shouldn't have yourself approving your own check request for a reimbursement.
So how does it work right now?
It doesn't.
It has been the chairperson up until I started, and then I've been doing the check requests. So it has not been formally stated, and I do also recommend that the board eventually adopt a purchasing policy, which would then further articulate the process, and then who, not only for a check request, but also how you go about purchasing for items that might be, say, under 1,000 or under 5,000, whatever that might be.
Christina, a question on that topic is, do you have the ability to find a said document from perhaps another DDA or something that we could possibly adapt a little bit to fit our needs so that we can expedite that? I don't know, and I'm not discrediting anyone here, but I don't know that any of us are going to write that.
No, it's kind of, yeah.
So if you could find a document that already exists
Yes.
and then present it to us, that would, I think,
Yeah.
be helpful.
One of my previous clients, we went through and overhauled the purchasing policy. So we can definitely take a look at that. And obviously, every community does things a little bit differently, so we need to
Right.
just look at that
Well,
internally.
we have to work
Yep.
in cooperation with the village, obviously, and their policies and procedures, so.
This
we
is
can
an item
blend
that I
together.
should probably want to bring to the village attorney as far as within our charter, because we do have provisions about like within our purchasing policy, how things work, and just, and I know the DDA's functions are different and separate. And so just to confirm, giving that authority to another party, and just, just make sure that we're very clean on that, the process.
And
So
your
how
current
should we
check
move
request
forward on
would be within your current approved budget, right? So you have expenditures that you have committed to as a board chair or as a board, so making sure that we can move forward
off on
and
those.
and paying for those items, yeah.
Okay. So the motion that is needed is going to be for the interim director until we have an executive director in place and the chairperson, but you mentioned possibly having another person. Who would you recommend?
I would recommend the vice chair.
Okay, so, and the vice chair, which is not on here, that's why I was bringing that up. So the authorization of the interim executive director or the director, whichever is in place, chairperson and vice chair to approve expenditures with 2 signatures required. Is that what I'm hearing?
Then that's easy enough. I mean, I think that having to sign off on the check requests is an easy process to do. You don't have a lot of transactions that are happening on a monthly basis. So you can schedule a time that the other person can come in and sign off on those items.
Would someone like to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion to table this until the village attorney has a chance to review it.
I didn't know whether, and I respect that, my question is, did you want us to do something and then have it looked at? Or you want him to develop it and bring it back to us?
I honestly, the way that this is written, I would say to actually postpone this and for the
Okay.
future table, put it to the end of the meeting to postpone it.
No,
Because-
I changed that to postpone.
Because this talks about entering into contracts as
Right.
well and authorized expenditures. And it's one thing having a check request is not necessarily authorizing expenditures, and entering into contracts is a whole other thing as well. So I think that language needs, I think this and possibly maybe the next item too, the way I heard it, may need to be wait till you have your purchasing policy.
Yeah,
that
these were
Craft
the-
talks about.
Yeah,
These were the 2 things that Mr. Costello was referring to earlier.
Right,
I
exactly.
agree.
I agree.
And so, in the interim, are we to continue the way we've been handling things with the executive director interim and/or the chair?
I'm going to turn and look at the clerk treasurer because this is the process that you prefer for this. Because I handle the, entering into contracts and stuff.
Right.
But as
But
far as
right now-
authorization of expenses,
That are already in our budget and our line items, should we continue the way we've been operating?
I mean, if they're within the budget,
Right,
within the budget, that's easy.
that's the ones I'm talking about.
Lisa, would it be appropriate if it's outside of the budget line to have a, for the instances where it's necessary to go over, to just have the minutes attached where the board approved it?
Yes, if
Sorry.
All right, so with that, we're going to postpone number 7 and number
have a-
8.
I will amend my motion to postpone both items number 7 and number 8 for legal review.
And hopefully we can have something for that for the next meeting.
So, yeah, I mean, as far as legal review, yes, we can.
Correct.
As far as purchasing policy, that's,
Wow.
you know, the board and the other do.
Well, Christina's gonna work on part, and you're gonna work on other SOPs, and we're moving forward. We're making progress. This is good.
How are we paying for current promotions on social media without a credit card?
Personal credit card.
Personal
Yes.
credit card,
And
asking
there's
for a
a-
check
yeah.
reimbursement.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I don't think there should be any further boosts or
No,
anything on any of
that's
that.
a hindrance.
Because right now, it takes a business owner to put it on their personal card, which I personally am not in favor of.
No.
I just don't think it's appropriate.
Now, Nick had a credit card. Was it a village credit card?
Yes, it
that he
was.
had? Okay.
Yes, yeah. There is an upcoming fee that's going to be hitting the books for Adobe Acrobat Pro for the computer to be upgraded. Currently, it's requiring a credit card.
So is that something the village can put on a credit card? Because we don't have a card to use.
Yeah. So we can figure these, we'll have to discuss this and figure some of these items out.
It's
Lisa and I, but
The 18th.
Yeah.
And I already have my credit card on there, so just
Well,
in
sounds like
case.
very solid.
Well, as long as I get reimbursed. As long as I
So
get
we'll leave the two of
reimbursed.
you to resolve that?
We'll resolve.
Okay.
A reminder, Chair, you have a motion on the floor.
Did we have a second? Yeah, the motion was to
Yeah.
postpone 7 and 8, and you
Second.
seconded it. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 9 is the Executive Director Interview Committee. And Christina, would you like to give us a recap on where we're at with that?
Yeah, so
With
again.
regards to interest?
Yeah, so again, the process, we have thus far received 17 applications, and I will be reviewing those and narrowing that down to the top 5 candidates for an interview committee to interview those individuals. And then from there, that committee will make a recommendation to the board. So with the interview committee, typically, what I would recommend is that your chair, your vice chair, and your secretary, your officers of your board, would serve on that committee, but you do have room for one more person to be added to it without quorum issues.
My recommendation was the village president, and that's for transparency to council. The interim director's opposition was she felt that it takes away power from the board. I disagree. I don't believe it takes away power because that board is simply an advisory board to the DDA. So I think it simply gives transparency to the council about the applicants that are being looked at.
I don't think I said that it was taking power away. I said it would be empowering to the board if there is another board member, because you are also on the council, and you'll be voting on this at council as well, per Public Act 57
Well,
law.
council approves the recommendation of the
Correct.
DDA.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just a reminder to the board that all the applications will be available to all of the board to review when they like, right?
Yes.
After a specific date, though.
Yes, so once I have everything collected, I have already started, compiling the ones that I have, and then we'll have the top 5 go out to everyone to be able to review and provide any feedback, questions that they would want included for the interview committee to consider. But then if you want to see any of the other applications, you're more than welcome to come in.
We'll have a folder with all of those available, but, you know, with the number of applications that are coming in, I don't think you're gonna wanna receive
Nobody
the
wants
full
to print
amount.
them all. for everybody, yeah.
17. No, that's great, 17.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
your criteria to narrow it down, or do you have like a process, or like to get it to the top 5?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be looking at, obviously, their background, and experience. And really, you know, it depends on the candidate pool, right? So if we're looking at some very skilled, and experienced individuals, then it's going to affect the rest of the pool. So, you know, how do you rank in that, right? But also, I will do a pre-screening call. So it's not just looking at a piece of paper. So I have definitely like about 10 questions that I would like to go through with them on the phone. And it will give me a better feel whether or not they're really the best candidate. So you know, you're also looking at not just skill set and experience, but really, do they have the right temperament for being in this position? And to, you know, help to provide guidance and leadership when the board definitely needs it.
Any other, I mean, April?
Yes.
Thank you for your interest. My question is, do we have any other board members interested in being in that position?
On the committee?
Yes.
Dave, aren't you the one with the HR background?
Yeah, I'd be very comfortable in that position. I do have about 30 years of corporate HR experience.
We need that.
And I guess my other question to you, April, is when you say transparency, what does that mean to you? By your being on this, and I'm not opposed to that, my question is, you're gonna be in reviewing it anyway. And so I think Christina's comment was more directed at having another board member would give us the ability to feel like we're selecting the person that we think is gonna be the best for our board. Not that you wouldn't, but you're gonna review it anyway. So that's my question. I'm just curious.
So the way I was reading this is that this board, and correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be the one doing the interviews, right?
Correct. The committee.
executive
The committee, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that seeing those interviews is something of, that will be enlightening as to who we're looking at. Don't you agree that that's different than looking at a dry text resume?
Oh, yeah, of course, but I didn't know what you meant by the transparency aspect of it, because I feel we're transparent anyways, but.
Do you want the interviews recorded? Is that what you're saying?
Do I want the interviews recorded? I guess that's something I haven't considered, because isn't there a potential for that to be a closed meeting anyways if any one of them asks for it?
Yeah, because they could have confidentiality up to a certain point.
Up to a certain point,
Right.
until it's like
Right.
the finalist, right?
And that's kind of more of a decision for the organization.
Yeah, so I don't think it matters if I want it or not, because it wouldn't necessarily be up to me, but rather law.
Yeah. So it just, from the way you said that, I was like, oh, you want something recorded.
Yeah. Now, previously though, Christina had done a shout out through emails and asked if any other board members were interested, and no one else had said anything either, but
Oh.
Dave, are you interested?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, are you interested in sitting on that committee?
I'd serve at the request of the officers. Yeah. I'd be available for it. Again, it's a very comfortable position based on my previous work experience.
Yeah, I think with your HR experience, that would be invaluable as well. Would it be possible to sit as a non-voting member?
It'll be a quorum.
That would still be a quorum.
Yeah,
Sorry, that
that's a
just
quorum.
dawned on me right as you said it. Yep.
We're all
Okay.
learning.
Nope. Thinking on our feet here.
So that was
I think someone should make a motion to have Dave on that board and do a vote. Dave has all those years of HR experience, and I think that's more important. And I will have access to all the applications, and it's not the same as seeing the people, but I'll have access to all the applications.
I also want to, before we go any further, remind the board that, as you mentioned earlier, these resumes are very sensitive topics and are not for public discussion. And so when you receive these resumes later on, that's a very confidential thing. And so, out of professionalism, let's make sure we keep it that way, because that's our job. And we want to make sure we don't jeopardize anybody that's applying that might not want the world to know at the moment. Okay? So, motion,
I'll make a motion to form the executive director interview committee with the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, and board member Dave Elliott.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let us know when that meeting will be.
Yeah, I'm gonna, start sending out some potential dates for.
And will they all be on one day?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Next up, old business, bylaw amendment update. I believe that would be Hillary.
Yeah, so we are actually still working on the bylaws. This is not a situation where many hands make for light work. So it's actually creating more. So we are still working on, and with I don't know if we're gonna want to have a purchasing policy separate from that. We are moving in the direction of having the contracts, the checks, that outline maybe in the bylaws, because I've been studying several other areas, bylaws, along with input from Christina, and April's helping, Nancy and I are working, so we're kind of working through a shared document.
Sure.
And putting all of our notes, and we're gonna reconvene and meet, hopefully next week to go over things in person and kind of tweak some things, so it's still a work in progress, but after our last meeting, and then after Christina got in there, it kind of came about that there were a couple more things that we needed to look at than we discussed in our meeting last time, so we just want to make sure that all of our bases are covered before we present them to the board again.
Thank you. Thank you for all your dedication to that and your committee, because bylaw revisions are never for the faint of heart.
I'm learning that.
It's a lot of work. So, thank you. Next up is public comment. Does anyone here have public comment they'd like to share with the board? Please go to the microphone and state your name and address.
Erica Lauheed, 102 Battle Alley. As a newer business owner, in the last couple of years that I've been here, almost 2 years, honestly, a lot of it was explained a little bit and a little more understanding just sitting in tonight, but the communication with all the newer business owners is bad. I would like to recommend some kind of packet when a new business opens. To be honest with you, the DDA is, okay, I get told it's a DDA, but what is the DDA, honestly? I don't know, even after 2 years. Where can I find the information for these meetings? I've never been told that. I go into whatever website. I have no idea. So I think those that have been here longer understand where that is and just assume, and you can't assume. Because it's very frustrating, and there's a lot of new business owners that are lost in the mix and feel like they're not included with the rest of the group. As far as the rules, expectations, I've been going to the meetings for over a year now for promotions. I assumed that was something that all the business owners did. This year we were asked to help take on one of the events and help plan it, that's fine, but where are the guidelines and expectations for that? Because now there's been issues, and everyone's aware of the issues, but there was no guidelines, there was no expectations, there was nothing formed for anyone to understand what that is. You can't just all assume because you're on the board that everyone knows what's going on. And if we really want for this town to grow and turn back around from COVID, from the fire, from everything else, then everyone needs to start working with start including all the new businesses, because it's a problem. And it's very frustrating, and I'm not the only newer business owner that feels this way. I don't understand why we can't be cohesive. And why isn't there a guideline that you say, welcome, here's the guidelines, this is what it is. And then when someone signs up to help, here's some of the expectations in the rules based on the village, based on the DDA. What do we need to do? I couldn't tell you. I do know you have to fill out a form and turn it into the council. I have no idea what that is, why and when. So, moving forward, I would like to see more welcoming to all the businesses and try to work together, because if we all work together, we would all thrive from it. But instead, I feel it's divided. And I don't appreciate that, and I don't like working in that kind of environment. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
My hips are getting sore from sitting. Dana Julian, 402 East Maple Street. I do want to say thank you very much for answering a bunch of questions tonight, because I did come here with some questions of things that, we just, as business owners and part of the public, we don't ever get to know. So I'm really glad about that. I do want to ask a couple of questions about the music in the alley and the lights, the string lights, and the planters, those big metal planters that are now giving off a lot of rust. Do we have a timeline on when the issues in the alley are gonna be fixed? Is their music gonna come back? I know the lights have been damaged from wind and storms out by, and Funky Fungi and the financial guy, I can't ever remember his name.
All right, John.
Yeah, so I know those were damaged. Are they gonna be damaged? Are they gonna be repaired? I just was wondering if there's a timeline for any of that. And I'd also like to know if the Holly Hotel is gonna be held accountable, the owners of the Holly Hotel are gonna be held accountable for cleaning up their weeds and the debris that is around the hotel. They still own it. They may not give a damn anymore, but they still own it, and they're still responsible for property maintenance. I personally have witnessed Jeremiah from, oh my gosh,
Detroit investors.
thank you, Detroit Investors Club, pulling the weeds himself. He's done it himself, a rival. I don't think that's fair. I think the Holly Hotel owners need to step up and take care of their property. I would also like to basically put out there on the record for the DDA board, you do not have permission to block my business with another business at any time, for any reason. You just don't. If there's an event in town, you do not have permission to block my business. You can block anybody else's that gives you permission, but you have a standing absolute no from me. I would like to be given the opportunity to put my own equipment or, products and stuff out in front of my store, or bring in somebody who is more aligned to what I do in front of my store. But barring that, there shouldn't be any business blocking another business. It just doesn't seem fair to me. There's so much other space in the alley. But on the other side of that, blocking access to the alley to keep the vendors on Saginaw is also incredibly unfair to the businesses in the alley. You can't exclude us. We're either part of you or not at all, and we should have our own entity. We are all in this together, and we all have to work to make it work for everybody. Blocking some people's businesses and not blocking others is not fair.
blocking off a street so that there's very difficult access to the alley, it's not apparent there is an alley, is not fair. It's not right. So I would really encourage you to think about in the upcoming events how we can manage that, because there is a better way. There is a better way to hold the event so that everyone feels included and can participate. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Next up is reports from committees. Economic Vitality.
Yeah, we've been working on new drafts for all the work plans, and we've got them updated now for 25 and 26. I'd like to review that with our committee, put more detail to those. Tentatively, we've got a meeting scheduled now for the 29th, and I'll get out more details on that soon.
Okay, thank you. Design Committee, we have our first plant exchange scheduled for May 31st. It's at Crapo Park from 9 to 11. And we've got some marketing pieces that have been out there on social media. We're encouraging people to participate. This is the time of year people are working in the yards. If you've got that one plant that was really flourishing and you want to trim it back a little bit, you can bring part of it to the swap and maybe take down home a different plant and grow your garden. So it's going to be a fun time, and it's going to be, like I said, on the 31st. Carol Howard and Danny from the DPW have been working diligently on putting that together, and there will also be a table there explaining and hopefully encouraging additional people to sign up for Adopt a Garden, the program that Christina mentioned earlier, which is live on the website. People can go online and adopt a garden, and once the garden is adopted, then we'll get some signage made, so it'll be noted that your business or you yourself as an individual, or perhaps in memory of someone, you can do a garden, and you could possibly get some plants during the plant swap that would help with that. So keep that in mind. We also are happy to say that if you drove by, there's a lot of activity this past Saturday at the gazebo at Ganshaw Park, finally. We're cleaning it up again through a contribution that we received last year, and we've been holding. We have funds available from the Kiwanis to bring that gazebo a little bit more up to speed and make it look beautiful and be a showplace for our community. My goal is to have it done before Memorial Day weekend, as we do get a lot of traffic that weekend for people going out to the Great Lakes National Cemetery and things like that. And so they replaced some of the deteriorated boards and things like that, and they have scraped it. And this coming weekend on Saturday, weather permitting, say a prayer, light a candle, hope it all works, that we get to do the painting. And so the gazebo will be painted, and it'll look nice and fresh, and hopefully DPW can get the flags back up, and it'll be nice. So we're excited about that.
Thanks.
Promotions?
Promotions, we just had Ladies Weekend. I think you guys had a conversation about how that all went. And chat with you about that, if you want to give me an update. We're meeting Monday, 5:30, Holly Cafe, to talk about the next events lined up.
All right, okay.
Do you have an update? Do you want to talk about that chat you had about Ladies Weekend out, or wait?
I think it's more committee related, but I
Okay.
mean, basically, I think overall, what we heard from businesses that we checked in on, I don't know, we got a couple businesses here. Friday night was very slow, Saturday was a much better day, and then Sunday was slow. So, there's some discussion about how that would all look in the future. Obviously, there was a lot of talk about Friday night being slow because of prom. Is that a good time to really partner that in there? And all that type of thing. So, you know, we're a big prom town.
Sure.
So, and not only was it just Holly's prom, but there were neighboring communities that had prom that night also. And so it's a difficult time of year, but we've run into this before, and it's just a challenge. So And we talked about the giveaway bags, and that's why it was discussed that we probably wouldn't do that in the future because it's not as well received as it once had been. And I think maybe it's just a tired idea and we need to give it something new.
Sure.
So
Then we
we're
can
looking for
discuss
new
more.
ideas.
On
But-
Monday.
Yeah, we'll talk about it at the promotions meeting on Monday. So if you can make it, if anyone's out there, everyone's invited if you want to be part of the promotions committee and help with some of the events. We're always looking for additional volunteers, so feel free to come. Organization committee?
Just to piggyback, I know I'm not, well, it's data from ladies from the, Friday night. So we had 83, a whopping 83, survey results. 35% of our attendees, heard about us on Facebook. And 85% of the people did opt in for being contacted in the future. So we're moving in the right direction of getting our list. 85% of the
Opted in.
attendees did opt in for future contact for promotions and events. And then obviously, we're still working on the bylaws. And I know that we're not really allowed to engage, but I did want to give you two an update on some of the things that you spoke about in your comment. Erica, as far as the special event application, I would like some time at the promotions meeting to go over that with people and maybe teach everybody how to do that so that everybody's in the loop on that going forward. And I agree that we can do better with communication. And if you have any master magic wand that you can wave over us, because it's been a struggle for a long time. And then Dana, as far as the Art in the Alley event, we decided today to go back to our original road closure, which is gonna be the bulk of Saginaw, which is
But
what.
Battle Alley will not be excluded.
And Battle Alley will not be excluded, it'll be
We have
closed
plans
from
to put things
Maple
in Battle
to
Alley
Civic,
also.
like it was for Witches Night last
In
year.
which the alley was excluded. The majority of people that attended Witches Night did not come down the alley.
Well, so, but, and then,
Until
right,
you guys started having, so you had to have a DJ
Well, no-
make announcements.
well, no-
That's what it took to get people down the alley, because they did not think that the event went
Jerome.
past the barricades.
right. And then
Okay.
if I can finish, please.
I
And
agree.
then
It's like,
we
what was-
tossed around the idea of putting a stage in front of Battle Alley.
These are all promotion committee conversations that we need to bring back to the committee.
Oh,
So if
okay.
we could do that, that would be great, because that's what promotions committee's about. And
Okay.
that's where this event conversation can take place. I agree that your comments have been heard, and I think some of them were addressed actually last month about getting some sort of SOP in place for hosting an event. And I think that'll cover a lot of what you're talking about, and we can add things in that you brought up, so. But all of that will be discussed at the promotions meeting on Monday, so if you will add that to your agenda,
For sure.
that would be great. Village manager report?
Thank you for everything everyone's doing. I think that as far as like developing policies and procedures across the board, we're doing better. And we're hearing a lot of the comments that are being made as far as like, oh, we need to add this in there. And like, even our special events policy has recently been like updated, and like how we're going through like adding a DDA, more of a DDA review, allowing more time for it. But also like, having a better packet and information to provide, so, we can help out with that. I'll pass off those items to the village attorney that we already talked about. This weekend, like the rest of you, I'm sure, I was looking at the Licensing and Regulatory Affairs website for Michigan, and I was looking over our social district stuff, and I noticed that like only 2 businesses are registered within our social district right now. One of them being Andy's Place. So we definitely need to clean that up and make sure, and I'll get with the team here, and but I think that there's a lot we can do with our social district, and we can improve it and improve our practices and going forward. But just I noticed like this weekend that needs to be cleaned up so that we're in compliance.
I thought Chief Nurse was over that program.
I think it's, the authority of it is of Chief Narsh, but as far as the, like, the execution implementation, it's usually the DDA. And I believe I passed it to, asked Chief Narsh about it, and he said that's typically the DDA that's running, because I asked some of those questions. So,
Sounds good. Anything else?
I would just say, like, typically DDAs would be kind of running the promotion of the program and like the logistics of it, that type of thing. Obviously, the enforcement is, on police department to be able to enforce the area. But in terms of the business registrations, that if there are more businesses that need to take part in a social district, we need to think through what those businesses are and encouraging them to apply. So yes, you have a district in place, but the businesses themselves have to apply as well. So it's not just that you have a district.
yeah, and so what I'm gonna to assist with this, I'll make like a cheat sheet, like this is, like all of the licensed establishments within the area, whether it's the Moose, whether it's, like within this, whether it's Holly Cafe, whoever has a license within the area, and here are the steps, because it's not necessarily intuitive, because not only do you have to get approval from MLCC, but you also have to get approval by resolution of the council as well. And so, because we own the social district, but it's, there's several, I'll make it as easy as possible for all the business owners. I'll make the process really simple, and, just give you the forms, this is what you need to do, and, like, take it from there. So I'll assist with the whole process. I'm pretty familiar with it.
While you're in that process, is there any follow-up based on the inquiry that we had from a while ago with the assistance of possibly a liquor license through the DDA? Because the DDA possibly could assist in liquor license acceptance?
There are other DDA licenses available.
And so that's my question. And Avia wants to inquire about getting a liquor license. And they have reached out to a few different various people, but I'm not sure if they knew who to reach out to. So who is that person they would reach out to?
Well, as far as DDA liquor license, it would be the DDA director, but as far as we can coordinate all of that, because honestly, I haven't talked to the MLCC about this specific thing, and I haven't even really done much research on our quotas versus,
Yeah, exactly, yeah, because there are quota licenses, so there's a number of licenses at the state level. Besides your quota licenses, there are the DDA licenses, there's also the redevelopment liquor licenses that might be available. There are sometimes a handful of other things as well as transfers in. So, if a business is looking to transfer one within the county to this area. So there's quite a bit you have to look at there.
what's in escrow right now.
Right, exactly. And anyone to be able to receive a redevelopment liquor license, you have to duly prove that there are no licenses available in escrow that you could obtain. So there's lots of steps to that process with that, but I have huge history on that stuff. So if we need to kind of take a look at that with the person of interest and, look at what the options are, we can definitely start investigating
He's
that a little further.
definitely interested to know what he needs to do to get a liquor license, as he'd like to expand his hours and obviously attract a bigger audience.
Okay, yeah. Have them contact me first and then we'll start from there.
Okay, our
Yeah.
connection. Right. Director reports? Oh, no, that's you, Director.
That's me.
Interim.
Interim. I know, it just says director, right? Whoever the director is
Got
at
so
the time.
confused.
Just, honestly, just a
Something
couple.
we didn't know?
No, I don't know if we went over a lot today, so really what I'm going to tell you is that, and it kind of related to one of the guest comments regarding the speakers and the music downtown. So we do have a grant
that we have requested from Main Street Oakland County and through one of their partners to be able to assist with that. So we are still kind of waiting on verification of that grant. And then as a reminder, the main event is on June 12th, and as I stated before, we have 3 awards that we've applied for, and there's a great opportunity in the future to have more, and we just have to kind of like start gathering our information together probably a little earlier to be ready for some of those things and know what Main Street Oakland County is looking for, because some of them do come with funding, so it's nice to kind of get those applications in. The other grant that I am exploring is the T-Mobile grant. They do have a number of rounds throughout the year, and this is mostly for placemaking projects. It has to be for a shovel-ready project. So if there is something that is shovel-ready, we gotta have plans, we have to have budget, all that kind of stuff laid out. Then we can make that kind of application. And there are other grants that I am eyeing for some of the other projects that we've talked about to kind of get us going for the rest of the year, hopefully, too.
What are the 3 awards that we applied for?
Oh, boy. And I don't remember the exact names of the awards, but I think it's like Event of the Year.
Event of the year.
You can help me, Tim.
Event of the Year, Legacy Award,
Award.
and Volunteer of the Year.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Board comments? Mr. Winkelmeyer?
Nice meeting.
Thanks.
With more than 2/3 of our captured TIF money coming from the north end, I think we should, in the future, do some projects out there. We can't ignore them. I mean, we're spending their money on downtown and Val Alley, which is a good thing, but, I mean, we have to include it. So let's look into that. That's all.
I agree.
I agree.
Mr. Elliott?
I'm done.
No.
I'm done.
Just to reiterate what you said on the north end, the design committee is, if anyone has any connection, I struggle with getting through to the owners of Holly Foods. And I'm looking to get access to power on the north end, because one of the things the design committee would like to do, coming from the north end, is light those 2 large pine trees that are on the front edge along North Holly Road for the holidays. It's a main entrance coming from the north, and it would help set the tone for our community. And I need power there, but I can't seem to connect. So I struggle with that. If anyone can get connection, that would be appreciated.
Are the trees on the east side or west side of the road?
They're on the east side of the road. They're in the grass along from the parking lot to the road in the parking lot of Holly Foods. Yeah,
If you reach out to Richard Kinnaman, he should be able to get you the contact.
okay. I'll see him at the food truck rally.
You can get a hold of him before that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's great. And then the other comment I just wanted to bring up is that the last meeting, Dana, we did bring up getting a packet together for people that are hosting events. So that's definitely something on our topic of the steps and the do's, the don'ts, and how to do it, and how to fill out the forms and all the stuff. So that is definitely something that's been discussed, and we're going to move forward on that. That's it.
I actually have a comment.
Yep.
Okay, now that you mentioned the awards, I did remember. I'm so excited for Wingelmeyer's to be nominated for the Legacy Award. It's amazing. Dickens Festival for Event of the Year. And then I think Volunteer of the Year is Linda
Yes.
Stouffer. So amazing. I'm excited about all those. Yeah,
Excellent. Yep.
yeah.
I don't know how we would have gotten this far without Linda helping get us through the process of no director. So,
And our accreditation.
yeah.
That was a huge one. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and the amount of time that she put into making that happen was amazing, and, you know, had no idea the amount of work she did to make that
A ton.
come about for us, and that's a real important accreditation for us.
Serena?
Just want to thank you for the public comments. As a new business and a new DDA member, that was one of the things that we had brought up about the stuff, and I would actually like to see maybe if we can get on the agenda at some point, so to make sure that we take care of those things. I don't know how we would add it, or, you know, how, but just make sure that somebody gets put in charge of doing those things.
Needs to come
We
from
can
the
talk about it
promotion
all day
committee.
long. The promotions committee? Okay.
It's a promotion committee activity, so you need to form a subcommittee and make it happen. And then bring it for review.
And I'm always available. I think I'm I stay open the latest out of almost anyone of retail. And I'm always available at the shop too. If anyone ever misses anything, they can always come and ask me.
Perfect.
Okay.
Communication obviously is a big thing. When I came to town 10 years ago, I started that Facebook merchants group because there was such a disconnect with all the businesses and communicating. So I really would love to get the GoGov app on the agenda for us to vote on it, to partner with the village. It's $5,000. We did a call with a demo of the app. We can bring all that information, submit it to be on the agenda so we can vote on it. But that would solve a great place where you can find all of the meetings, all of the minutes. It links you to everything. The village can use it for announcements of, you know, boil water advisory, fireworks tonight at dusk, whatever they wanted to use it for. It would just be nice for us to make a move on that. It was a line item on our budget going forward, so just putting that out there. That'll certainly help with communication for everyone in the village and the township. Great meeting, thank you.
Thank you. April?
I'm glad to see that some of these policies are being investigated more thoroughly, and I hope in the future we continue to investigate into policies before proceeding into actions that are perhaps unclear. I would like to see more inclusivity with Battle Alley, which I was unaware of, with some of the businesses down there, and also the north side in Midtown. So I'm looking forward to see what else happens, and thank you guys, great meeting.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate on that topic. I personally have worked diligently on trying to get people from the north end to serve on this board, and I can't seem to get any yeses.
I had a yes from a couple businesses down there before this last round of, and they didn't show up,
Yeah,
so.
we've had that experience.
It was a yes, though.
So if any north end businesses are listening, we encourage you to apply at the village office because we want to include you. We want to help invest in that end of town, but we have to have some buy-in from that end of town as well. Because right now, all the volunteers you see are all from the downtown area. And it's not by choice, that's who stepped up. And so we're looking for people to step up, and hopefully they will, because we welcome them. There's lots of committees that need volunteers on them, and that's a great place to start to see if it's even something they want to get involved in. Kind of jumping from your storefront into board membership is a little big step for a lot of people, but to get involved in a committee or volunteer for an event is a great way for people and residents as well to get involved and see, hey, what's going on with the DDA, so that would be great. So with that, 7:58, meeting adjourned.